Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into some brand new 2026 economic data out of South Carolina to unpack what is honestly a fascinating paradox. We're going to figure out how an economy can be absolutely booming and breaking at the exact same time. It's like watching a sports car redline. So we're following the data to see exactly what happens when explosive growth pushes a state to its absolute structural limits.
Let's kick things off with a truly massive number. South Carolina has officially hit record high employment, with over 2.5 million residents currently working. Now, on paper, this is the ultimate economic victory. More people are clocking in across the state than ever before in its history. That should mean a thriving, unstoppable ecosystem. It's literally the kind of headline every single state government dreams of publishing. But, and there's always a but, right? This brings us to our central mystery for today. If the state's economic engine is running at absolute maximum capacity, why does it feel like it's struggling to keep up? Why are local businesses feeling so squeezed? And why are everyday residents feeling the crushing pressure of this so-called boom instead of the prosperity?
To find out, we're going to stress test this economy across 5 key areas: workforce shortages, rapid urbanization, sector vulnerabilities, the urban-rural divide, and macro pressures. All right, Section 1, workforce dynamics and labor shortages. So a major friction point we're seeing right out of the gate is the state's graying labor force. As older, highly skilled workers retire, they aren't just leaving empty desks behind. No, they're leaving a massive vacuum of institutional knowledge, specifically in highly technical and physical sectors. The jobs are wide open, sure, but the master electricians, the seasoned builders, the experienced managers, they're all exiting way faster than they can be replaced. This isn't just a basic headcount issue. We're talking about a profound loss of expertise.
To really put that into perspective for you, the construction sector alone needs over 340,000 new workers just to meet the immense demands of 2026. Guys, that is an entire city's worth of people needed overnight. You simply cannot sustain unprecedented infrastructure growth without the actual human hands to build it. A booming economy demands physical expansion, and right now, that workforce pipeline is dangerously dry. And here is where a really profound skills gap reveals itself. Look, the state has a 1.2% population growth, meaning the labor pool is actually expanding. People are moving there. But the newly minted college graduates entering the workforce just aren't matching the highly specific technical needs of these booming manufacturing and construction industries. Degrees are absolutely being earned, but they just aren't the degrees the market is currently begging for. This mismatch is exactly why, ironically, unemployment has actually ticked up to 4.8% right in the middle of a historic jobs boom. Crazy, right?
Moving on to Section 2, the strain of rapid urbanization.
Governor McMaster actually hit the nail on the head regarding this tension in 2026, pointing to the profound challenges of what he called unrestrained out-of-state growth. Think about it. When a massive influx of new residents arrives in a really short period, it puts immediate, overwhelming pressure on foundational systems that were simply never designed to handle that kind of volume so quickly. It's kind of like inviting 10 people to a dinner party and having 50 show up at your door. The resources are going to stretch until they snap. We see this strain manifesting literally the moment you leave your driveway. Traffic congestion has gotten so severe that it triggered a massive $8 billion state infrastructure plan just to repair bridges and untangle the roadways. And beneath the surface, exact same story. There is a surging, critical demand on utilities. Everything from water and sewer capacity to electric power generation is being pushed right to the absolute limit. Then, of course, there's the housing market squeeze. South Carolina's long-standing reputation as a low cost of living haven is rapidly eroding. We are looking at a classic, brutal supply and demand crisis. High interest rates paired with incredibly tight inventory have caused a 7 to 8% drop in home sales in major markets like Greenville and Charleston. Yet, because everyone still wants to move there, home prices stubbornly keep going up even as sales slow down. It creates this incredible barrier to entry for the exact workforce the state desperately needs to attract. Which brings us to Section 3, sector-specific vulnerabilities. When we stress test the 3 primary engines of this economy, the vulnerabilities become super clear. First step, manufacturing. As the most trade-exposed state on the East Coast, South Carolina's massive automotive and logistics sectors are highly vulnerable to 2026 tariffs and global trade shifts. Any disruption in international supply chains hits the state first, and it hits it hardest. Second, retail is facing a severe slowdown. Why? Well, because households are being forced to shift their discretionary budgets toward non-negotiable survival costs. We're talking rising rent, medical care, and insurance. People simply aren't spending at the mall anymore. Finally, energy and data centers. Massive investments are pouring in, like the $2.4 billion Project Liberty, but these incredible economic rewards are directly threatened if the local energy grid can't generate enough power to literally turn the lights on. Okay, let's look at Section 4, the urban-rural divide. When we map out all this growth, we see a stark tale of two completely different economies operating within the exact same state lines. There is a massive, massive earnings gap. Urban graduates are earning approximately $15,000 more annually after 10 years compared to their rural counterparts. Over an entire career, that is a life-altering difference in wealth accumulation, driven almost entirely by geography. It basically means urban centers compound their wealth, while rural areas fall further and further behind. And this wealth disparity doesn't just affect bank accounts, it directly impacts community health. The data points to severe revenue erosion for rural hospitals. Without a dense, affluent local economic base to support them, these facilities are really struggling to just keep their doors open. The downstream effect of that is a critical, frankly dangerous, lack of primary care providers for anyone living outside of a metropolitan county. And as we know, when basic healthcare disappears from a region, economic recovery becomes nearly impossible. But here is probably the most fascinating twist regarding the state's tax base. Despite all those challenges we just talked about, 58% of rural graduates actually choose to stay in-state, compared to just 51% of urban grads. It's a highly complex brain drain dynamic. The rural communities, the very areas facing the toughest economic and healthcare hurdles, are actually the ones keeping more of their young, educated workforce loyal to the state. Meanwhile, the urban centers are attracting wealth, but bleeding half of their homegrown talent to other states. Make it make sense, right? Finally, let's zoom out to Section 5, global and macroeconomic pressures. So, South Carolina workers are seeing exciting wage growth of about 3%. People are bringing home bigger paychecks, which is great. But before you pop the champagne, look at the other side of the scale. Inflation is eating exactly 3% right back. It is completely neutralizing those hard-earned wage gains, leaving workers with that really frustrating psychological feeling that they're sprinting on a treadmill just to stay in the exact same financial place. The numbers go up, sure, but purchasing power remains completely frozen. Add to this the external, completely unpredictable shocks from outside state lines. Federal Reserve interest rate volatility is actively squeezing South Carolina's capital-heavy industries. We're talking specifically about manufacturing and real estate. It's just significantly harder to borrow money and build new facilities right now. On top of that, the 2026 oil shock is directly increasing costs for the state's crucial logistics network and tourism hubs. Every truck moving goods from the ports and every family driving to the coast for vacation feels that hit. It's a perfect storm of macroeconomic pressure colliding with a state that is already stretched incredibly thin by its own internal expansion. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. How does a state balance unprecedented, record-breaking growth with the hard reality of its structural limits? South Carolina is undeniably booming, but the foundation is cracking under the weight of its own success. Can an economic engine running this extraordinarily hot truly sustain itself without some serious structural cooling? Or is it bound to stall completely? It's the ultimate growth paradox, and honestly, it's a question every single booming economy will eventually have to answer. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.